welcome to this recap of the latest GT3 Tour we had with Shakedown on PlayStation, which was Season 7. We went all over the place. We started Nurburgring, went to Ricard, Imola, Zandvoort, Silverstone, and then a couple of shorter tracks towards the end, Laguna, Seca, Oulton Park and Brands Hatch, all with different formats, and as in typical Shakedown fashion, every format has its own point structure all the way down to 20th and accumulated over 8 rounds. So for those of you that do not know, Shakedown Simracing is probably the best PlayStation league out there at the moment for ACC, and I'll leave a link in the description below for you to check them out. Our weapon of choice for this season was the Audi R8 Evo. Now, it is worth mentioning that I have not driven this car before this season started, and before the season started I also changed my field of view settings, went to dash cam, and also changed my steering rate. So a lot of different changes, and it was also my first full-time GT3 Tour with Shakedown. So all in all, I think it went pretty well and really enjoyed driving with the Audi. The season was contested by 32 drivers, 9 manufacturers represented, and over 8 rounds. We also learned that you should avoid the sausage curbs like you have to in Formula 2, and there was a lot of close racing, some good and some bad. And what will racing be without a little bit of drama and some disconnects, or in proper racing, mechanical failures? That's how we look at these things, you know. Some people miss racing for various other reasons, including things that just happens in life. We were very unfortunate getting it 4 out of the 8 rounds, but these things happen and you take it on the chin and you roll on. So it did mean that we lost a couple of really good points in a couple of races, but the racing in general has been absolutely fantastic. Some packed grids. So on to round 1, and we went to Nurburgring for a sprint and a feature race, so 2 races. You had to stop in both of them, pretty average temperatures, and we were able to just hook up our car around here. The Audi seemed to have worked well around some of the, I would say medium type course tracks like Nurburgring, and it just seemed to have clicked, and we were able to put it on pole. I think it was our last pole for the whole season, so clearly everybody else caught up, or we just slowed down as the season went on. But yeah, you'll see me coming across the line here for I think it was one of my PBs potentially for Nurburgring, and able to slot it onto pole. All the typical contenders ride at the pointy end, and in the race it was a case of the Audis. I had Alberto all over my mirrors. I did a lot of mirror watching, but in the end we were able to pull off a victory in both the 2 sessions. The biggest thing here that happened was on the final race, in race 2, I literally crawled over this pit line with I think 5 seconds to go, which made the pit stop still valid and allowed us to not cop a penalty. So after that race, we thought we've got this. We had the pole, we had 2 victories, not by far, but we were able to compete at the pointy end, and it gave us hope. And unfortunately, it didn't last long. We went to Paul Ricard for the second round for an open format. This meant a 75-minute race. Most people could do a full race on fuel-saving mode, depending on the car they ran, like the BMWs definitely couldn't. However, we ended up not qualifying where we should have. We were a full second of our pace. We made a lot of mistakes in qualifying, as you can see here, twice at Lebo, so 1 on entry, 1 on exit. just running a little bit wide and ending up invalidating our laps. So started right at the back, probably our worst qualifying performance of the whole season, which compromised our race a little bit, but we were going to be fuel saving anyway. We were not planning on stopping, and we were just cruising at the back until this happened. This was the first of many disconnects, and unfortunately, as you'll see here, is once you get back into the server during a race, when you get disconnected, you have your controls locked, and that means you get lapped, and you end up looking like this. So at the end of that race, we really didn't score many points, and we dropped a couple of places there, which was really unfortunate. Bring on round 3 as we headed to Imola, one of my favorite tracks, and one where we seem to have had really good pace as well. It was an endurance race, 90 minutes, which meant 900 points on offer for the victory. But what made this fascinating was that everybody that was pro had to predominantly start from the back, since the qualifying session deteriorated. Rain came, and when we went out, our times were slower, so we all had to battle our way through the field, which created one of the best races of the season. In my opinion anyway, it was one of my favorites, and it was one of those races where there was a lot of close battles. We had a little bit of a tap at the beginning. It caused us to lose a little bit of track position, but in the end we stopped early for our first stop, and then ran a really long second middle stint. So since our pace was quite good, this disconnect was heart-wrenching, to be honest. In an endurance race, it's probably the last thing you want to see. Being lapped because you're sitting in the pits while everybody else is going past. So this one cost us a lot of points and was quite a painful experience, but absolutely loved the racing around here. So what did this mean for the table? Well, it meant that we dropped a lot of points again. So 2 races in a row, and the gap at the top just started stretching. It took us to round 4, where we went to Zandvoort. We actually had a sprint format, which was 2 sprint races, and what made this one interesting, which was it was night racing. So as you can see there, qualifying 1, 7th, ended the race 5th, and then in qualifying 2, 7th again. So clearly here we just were not on the pace. We, as you'll see here, starting in the midfield is always tough, but one of the things with Shakedown is just the respectful racing on track. People typically redress when there's issues, and there's just almost rarely taps. There's a lot of close racing, and I do love the Zandvoort track. Probably not the Audi's strong suit. It seemed to not have done so well on the shorter twisty tracks, and especially the bumps. The Audi just did not like the bumps. So this was a really good race. We were racing with Choper and Whipper and Craig predominantly. We had Cloquet behind us as well. And whilst we had some really good battles on track at night at Zandvoort, which is a challenge in itself to keep your focus up, we just didn't have the pace. So in the end, we had a couple of, I think, 6th or 5th positions here, and didn't really maximize, I suppose, what the car was capable of. So fun nights racing, but probably not quite where we wanted to be. So after that substandard performance, we didn't really score enough points there. Jim and Alberto clearly taking quite a bit of a lead. This meant we had to go to Silverstone next. This was a 100-minute endurance race. 2 mandatory pit stops for fuel, and we were right at the pointy end with our time with Silverstone. Like Nurburgring, the cars seemed to work well around here. after running behind Ashley here for a couple of laps, we realized that we definitely had a bit of pace on him. So we actually ended up pitting very early here to not, get caught up in any shenanigans with our teammate, to avoid losing time, battling each other. So trying to find some clean path on the racetrack. But pitting early meant that there was definitely going to be some additional traffic, and so being a 100-minute race and you had to stop twice, I thought I'll stop the first one first and again do a longer middle stint, and it actually seemed to have worked pretty well. We came out behind some traffic, but were able to clear most of it fairly quickly. So fast forwarded here to when Jim went in for his pit stop right at the end of the race, and to see where he would have come out. Craig, one of the new members, were running a really good race and was right up there. And when Jim came in for his last pit stop, we cleared him, and I think we were about 10 seconds up the road, which was fantastic. So we had to just keep it clean to the end, obviously being on the tyres a little bit longer than he was, but in the end, ultimately we had some really good pace around Silverstone, probably to do with the car, and we also didn't have Alberto in this race. So that meant that we were able to come across the line in first position for a change, and we finally could look like this. So after a great battle there, we had Jim and Craig and Bailey, Choper, Whipper all in there, and it meant that we finally were climbing the rankings a little bit, giving us a little bit of hope again, Once again, that did not last long. We went to Laguna Seca for a format which was normal, a 60-minute race, so we were traditional, kind of a sprint race really. It was a normal hot day around the old dam, and unfortunately we had some more issues with disconnects, but in this race, to be very fair, we were probably only 5th or 6th fastest again, a little bit like Zandvoort. The car felt like it just wasn't connected to this track, or it was just us in the car, whatever it might have been. We were just a little bit off the pace, so we're really staring down the barrel here, trying to see if we could get a podium, but we're clearly going to lose a little bit more ground to people like Jim. At the start here we had a little bit of a moment there. We wanted to turn in and there was a car, so we went a little bit round and lost probably a couple of positions there, 3 of them in fact, trying to just stay clear of people clearly a little bit faster than me at that stage. So apologies goes out to Mark Letwich. This was not on purpose. He thought I was doing a fake dive here. I actually misjudged myself a little bit, and he hit the curb and went off the track, and we ended up picking a position. It actually went very well. I think a lot of people made mistakes. It's a really tough track that it punishes you hard when you hit some of those sausage curbs or go off on the dust. And I was actually thinking to pit, and I was busy playing with a pit strategy there, and missed the apex on that corner, ran wide, went onto the loud pedal, and around she went, and that ruined our race. Well, that was one of many things that went wrong, because after this we had another disconnect, and after that we came out behind one of the widest Audis in Shakedown's league. We came out here behind Dave, who was busy battling with another competitor, and unfortunately I saw a gap here because he was ran wide there, came in to try and take away the position, and he also spun me around. I was very animated on this specific occasion, and apologies goes out to Dave. I think that's just a racing incident. 2 don't go into 1, and I probably should have been a bit more patient. So that meant we ended up in a very lonely 12th position right at the back and losing a little bit more ground again. So championship falling apart at this stage. Oulton Park, another one of those tracks I would say is very similar to some of the ones we've not been good at. It was a micro sprint format, so 5-10 minute races, we were expecting rain, yet the rain never came, and we actually had okay-ish pace. But one of these tracks, again with a lot of bumps, probably one of the worst ones to be honest, and just really not suited to probably my driving style, but also not the Audi. I'm used to driving with a Bentley, and this was just, I found this was really tough. I ended up using Bailey here as a bit of a marker to see if I can pick up some time, and I was actually up quite a lot of, I think 3 or 4 tenths, and yeah, the car just came around there on the last corner, and that cost me probably another 3 tenths, so there's a bit more time in it, but was happy with 4th, starting from there for all the micro sprints. I made another mistake. I was able to actually do another lap, and I didn't. I rolled out of it because I lost concentration, and yeah, so we started on 4th position for the 5 races, so I was really looking forward to it because I thought we outperformed kind of where I thought we should have been. And you'll see here just once again, as with most of the races in this specific league, just really clean racing. You know, it's not easy to find online racing where people are respectful and give each other space on track. You've got to be aware of these things and drive like that, so that was fantastic. And yeah, poor old Jim had a spin in the first race, but that meant that we climbed up to 3rd, and we actually thought that we're in with a chance here until the pit stops came, and we lost some ground.
Just gone off.
Both Brendan and Craig undercut us in this race, and yeah, where we thought we were in with a podium, we actually did not really have the pace. These very tight, twisty tracks, bumpy stuff just didn't work for our style.
I'm probably very vulnerable here to Craig once he does his pit stop.
This was the 3rd race. I already made my pit stop. I was only behind Jim and Bailey. Craig was just about to make his pit stop, and we had another disconnect. Now, where this one was tough, it was the 3rd race, which meant we didn't score any points for the 3rd race, and it put us back of the grid for the 4th and the 5th races. And so that compromised our point accumulation across the 5 races. So it actually screwed us for 3 races during this round. You can see there the controls being locked again. So I would like to mention though that these disconnects are primarily probably more at my side than on the service side. Shakedown has done pretty much everything they can, upgrading the service to make sure we have a stable running. We had some great battles at the back though. You know, even though we started at the back, it actually makes for really fun racing. There was a couple of dive bombs and yeah, some really difficult sections of the track to try and get past other cars. It just is so tight and twisty that there's just not that much space, so we ended up just losing positions, obviously starting on the back for race 4 and 5, and race 3 we scored luckily like 1 point, so lost a lot of points again, you know, with the disconnects on this occasion. And we stayed in the UK, went to Brands Hatch for a final sprint and feature race to close off the season. We had some balmy afternoon weather, and the car seemed to have been doing relatively okay around here as well. We somehow managed to pull a PB for this car out of the bag in qualifying, which was really good, and it gave us a solid 4th position on the grid, which was great because once again there's 2 races. You've got to start both from where you qualify. So it was good to be able to start from 4th, and that led to some really good racing as well. We were clearly not at the pace because we were a full second off Ashley's time there, so he had tremendous pace around Brands Hatch. And on to the first race of 2, and as always, really good first lap kind of racing here going on between pretty much all the competitors. And one of the things that really caught us out though in the second race, well for me anyway, was just how gloomy it got. I missed a couple of my brake markers and just lost a lot of speed towards the end. Actually with a great victory to close the season. And Jim, what a champion. Over the course of 8 rounds, truly deserves that one. Alberto came in second, only racing 4 of them, having a holiday in Spain, and obviously we came in third after quite a bit of bad luck, but really happy with that as a result at the end of our very first season with Shakedown and Mark Ledwidge picking up the silver championship trophy. So what's next from us? In the coming few weeks we will have a 2.4 hour, basically a 24-hour race at Spa, which will be awesome. That's on the 5th of August. We will be in the Ferrari, and really looking forward to that. We will also have a charity event for Are You OK on the 18th of August. So look out for both of those in this coming month in the off season. And yeah, just thank you very much for your time, and see you next time.